Hello everyone. Please tell me, which city are you listening from? What time is it there? Is everything okay? Or does it feel like someone's watching you? At first I didn't think much of it. Dreams come and go, especially when you're tired. I'd been working long hours feeling drained. So when I saw a strange girl standing alone in a dream, I assumed it was my mind just sorting things out. She stood on a broken stone bridge over black water. Everything in the dream felt cold still, like time had stopped. She faced away from me, long dark hair blowing slightly, even though there was no wind. Her dress was light gray like fog, and I never saw her face. I tried calling to her, but she never turned around. She only whispered a number, a phone number, the same number every single night. I ignored it at first, thought it was just something strange my brain made up, but the dream kept coming back night after night. Same girl, same bridge, same whispered number. Eventually I gave in. I wrote the number down. I told myself I was just curious, that I wouldn't actually call it, but I did. It rang only twice, then someone answered. A soft female voice said calmly, "I knew you'd call." My mouth went dry. "Who is this?" I asked. She didn't answer my question. She only said, "Do you remember the lake before?" I could say anything else. She hung up. I stared at the screen. There was no name, no location, just the number. Sitting there real that night. The dream was different. I didn't see the bridge. I saw her, the girl standing in my apartment at the end of my bed. Still in the same dress, still not moving, just standing there, but this time I could see her face, pale. Empty eyes to dark skin, like wet paper, and then she whispered something else. My name. I woke up sweating, my heart pounding. I turned on every light in the apartment. I didn't sleep again that night. The next day I searched the number online. There were no results, not connected to any company, not in any database. But something strange happened. I got a call from a blocked number later that evening. The voice said, "You don't remember me, but I remember you." I didn't speak. I couldn't. My throat was frozen. The call ended. I didn't call back, but I didn't need to, because she kept coming back. Soon I started seeing her outside of dreams. Reflections, shadows in the back seat of my car, always there, only for a moment, always disappearing when I looked. Twice I tried to tell myself I was tired, losing sleep, seeing things, but things got worse. One morning I woke up and found my phone had called her number at 3:12 a.m. I don't remember doing that. I checked my call log. There were 5 outgoing calls. All at the same time, all to the same number. I deleted them. They came back. I changed phones. Didn't help. Every morning the number was at the top of my recent calls. Every night the dream came back. Eventually I found her name, Elise Cartwright. She had gone missing in 1992 from a small town near Waterton, disappeared near a lake after calling someone. Her phone was found, but no one knew who she called. It was the last thing she ever did. And the number she dialed was mine. That doesn't make sense. I wasn't even born in 1992. I didn't own a phone until 2007. How could she have called me? I drove to Waterton. I found the lake and the bridge. It was exactly like the one in my dream. Same broken stones, same still water, same silence. I stood on the edge and whispered her number into the air. My phone rang. No name, no number, just unknown caller. I answered. A voice my own said, "She's here now. You're next." Then the call ended. Now, every night when I sleep, I don't dream, not really. I wake up standing on the bridge. The sky is always gray, the lake always silent, and Elise is no longer facing away from me. She stands beside me now, whispering, smiling, waiting. My phone still calls the number, even when I turn it off, even when I smash it, even when I switch SIM cards one day, someone else will start dreaming about her. They'll hear the number, they'll call it just like I did, and Elise will move on because he'll be in her place, standing on the bridge, facing away, waiting for someone else to call. It all began the night I moved into my new apartment, a small place on the 5th floor of an aging building, nothing fancy. It had that weird smell old places have, like dust, wood, and something faintly sweet that I couldn't quite place. I was tired from lifting boxes all day, and after heating some leftover food, I fell asleep fully clothed on the mattress. The first dream came quickly. I found myself in a cold, forced quiet, misty, and endless. The trees were thin and tall, reaching up like black arms into a dull gray sky. No birds, no wind, just silence, like the whole world had paused. And then I saw her, a girl, standing far ahead between the trees, still watching me. I couldn't see her clearly, but I felt her presence like a weight in the air. I tried to speak, but no words came. As I stepped toward her, she turned her head slightly. And that's when she whispered, "Daniel." I woke up immediately, sitting upright in bed. My heart was racing. It was too real, too detailed. I'd never dreamed like that. Before I shook it off, drank some water, and told myself it was just my brain adjusting to the new place, but the next night she came back. This time, the dream started in a different place, an empty playground. At night the swings moved slowly, even though there was no wind. The air was cold again. Fog drifted low over the ground. I stood under a flickering streetlight, and she was there on the other side of the fence behind the monkey bars, watching. She wore a long blue coat, buttoned to her throat. Her hair was dark and tied back, and her eyes, they never blinked. "Daniel," she whispered again, but this time she added, "You said you'd never forget me." I woke up again, gasping. I had never seen this girl before. I didn't know anyone like her, and yet she seemed to know me night after night. She returned each time. The dream changed. One night I was back in my old high school. The hallways were dark, lockers, rusted walls peeling. She stood at the end of the hallway, motionless, waiting. Another night I was in my childhood bedroom. She sat on the bed, staring at my posters like she'd lived there. When I entered, she slowly turned to face me. "Do you remember when we played here?" she asked. Her voice was always calm, soft like wind through leaves, but there was something underneath it, like pain wrapped in silk. I started losing sleep even during the day. I was distracted, on edge. I'd blink and see her standing in reflection shop windows, puddles, TV screens. Not for long, just a flash, but I knew it was her. Then the real nightmare began. One night I tried to speak to her in the dream. I asked, "Who are you?" She stepped closer and touched my arm. Her hand was cold to cold. I felt it in real life. My skin burned where she touched me, and when I woke up, there was a red mark there, a handprint. I stared at it for hours. I stopped going out. I closed the curtains. My friends stopped calling. I couldn't explain it without sounding crazy, so I searched. I typed everything I could into the internet, saying, "Girl in dream every night, dream character, knows my name, blue coat, girl, dream spirit." And that's when I found a forum thread buried deep where other people had described her. They didn't know her name, but they mentioned the blue coat, the cold hand, the calm voice, the way she whispered their name. Every person said the same thing. She comes when you're alone. She shows you memories you've never lived, and once you accept her, she never leaves. I wanted answers. I wanted it to stop, so I did something stupid. I asked her to tell me everything that night. The dream began with me walking through the forest again. This time she stood beside a small stone well in the clearing. She looked sad, almost broken. She turned to me and said, "You forgot me. You promised you wouldn't. You said we'd be together again. I don't know you." I shouted. She stepped closer. But I know you. I always have. She touched my forehead. Suddenly I saw memories that didn't belong to me, flashes of another life, a girl holding my hand as we ran through snowy woods, a kiss beneath a tree, a car crash, a funeral, her name carved on stone. Ilara, her name was Ilara. I woke up screaming for the next week. I didn't sleep at all. I forced myself awake, energy drinks, loud music, cold showers. But on the 8th night, I collapsed on the couch, my body gave up, and she was there waiting. Now you remember, she said, you left me. You moved on, but I waited. I begged her to leave me alone, to go away, but she smiled and said, this time he'll be the one who never lets go. Now I dream of her, even when I'm awake. I see her in the corner of my vision. I hear her whisper when no one else is around. When I sleep, we live in the other world together, the forest, the school, the old house by the lake. I feel safe and terrified at the same time, but something's changed. I'm starting to forget the real world. I forget appointments, friends, my own voice. It's like her world is becoming stronger than mine. Like I'm fading, and she's becoming real. Last night, I looked in the mirror and saw her reflection instead of mine. She smiled and said, you're almost home. I don't know how much longer I can stay awake. I don't know what happens when I fall asleep completely for good, but I feel it coming, and when it does, I think she'll be there to catch me, because she's always waiting, and this time she's not letting go, not ever. The first time I saw him was in a dream. I barely remembered a faint image, a shape standing at the edge of my vision. I was walking through a foggy hallway. The walls looked like old hospital tiles, greenish, and damp lights above buzzed weakly. I was alone, or at least I thought I was, until I felt the pressure. You know that feeling when you're being watched. That heavy sense that eyes are on you, even when you can't prove it. I turned. At the far end of the corridor stood a man, too tall. Thin like a shadow, stretched the wrong way, his head tilted slightly like he was studying me. I couldn't see his face. It was all blur and blackness, like someone had erased his features. I blinked, and he was gone. I woke up cold, sweating, my breath caught in my throat. It was just a dream, that's what I told myself. A creepy one, sure, but just a dream. But then came the second night, and the third. And the fourth. Each dream was different, but he was always there, sometimes far away, sometimes just outside a window, sometimes standing behind me in a mirror, always silent, always watching. He never moved, never chased, just stared as if waiting. At first I brushed it off. Nightmares happen, especially when you're stressed, but I wasn't stressed. My life was calm, work was fine, no fights with friends, no trauma, no horror movies before bed, nothing to explain why I was now seeing this figure every night. Then something changed on the fifth night. I didn't wake up alone. I felt something like a presence. In the room, my bedroom felt heavier, the air thicker, the shadows longer. I sat up slowly, my eyes adjusted. He was standing at the corner of my room. Same tall frame, same featureless face, same stillness. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. I blinked and he vanished, but my blanket was pulled halfway off the bed, and I don't toss in my sleep. I didn't dream again that night. I just lay awake, waiting for morning. Days passed. I tried not to think about it, told myself it was sleep paralysis, that maybe I had imagined it, but he kept coming back, and now he was getting closer. In one dream, I turned to find him standing right behind me, his breath cold on my neck. In another, he was inside my house, sitting in my living room, still silent, still watching. And then he followed me into reality. It started small. I would catch a glimpse of someone in a crowd, tall, stiff, standing still, while everyone else moved. I'd look again, and he'd be gone. Once while driving, I saw him in my rearview mirror, just for A second standing on the side of the road, I nearly crashed the car. I began to see him everywhere, reflections, dark corners at the foot of my bed when I blinked. At first just flashes, then longer, clearer. He was stepping out of my dreams, like he had permission now. I told my best friend about it. She laughed, said I was probably overtired. I asked if she could stay the night just once. She agreed that night. She woke me up at 3:12 a.m. She was pale, shaking. Someone was in the room, she whispered. I didn't even ask who. I already knew. We left, went to her apartment. I thought maybe if I changed spaces he'd stay behind. He didn't that night. He was already inside her room. When I closed my eyes this time, he moved. He walked toward me slowly, step by step, and for the first time I heard him speak. His voice was not human. It was like many voices stacked together, deep, soft, echoing. He said, "You brought me here." I woke up screaming. I started recording myself while I slept, just in case one night. I woke to find my phone recording, though I hadn't set it to. I watched the footage for the first 2 hours. I was just sleeping. Then something strange. The closet door creaked open by itself. The shadow moved across the room, and at exactly 300 a.m. the camera went black for 6 seconds. When it came back on, I was sitting up staring at the camera, eyes open wide, whispering, "Hayes here now." I went to a sleep therapist, a psychiatrist, a priest. No one helped, no one believed. They said nightmares don't cross over, they said. Dreams aren't contagious. They were wrong. I stopped sleeping. I lasted 4 days. On the 5th day I passed out, and this time when I met him in the dream, he had a face. My face, he smiled. "Now, you understand," he said, and reached out. When I woke up, I had bruises on my arms, finger-shaped, too big to be mine. Now I feel him, even when I'm awake. I see his reflection instead of mine. He mimics me. Shadows move when I don't. Sometimes my voice echoes twice when I speak. I'm no longer sure which world is real, his or mine, and I don't know which one I'll wake up in next. Because the truth is, I think I brought him out, and now he lives here. It was just past 2 a.m. when I fell asleep. The room was silent. My phone was charging beside my pillow. Everything felt normal, until it didn't. At first, I was in a dream I couldn't remember. Just flash of ceiling lights, a hallway, a woman's whisper, footsteps behind me. Then, everything went black. Not like darkness in a room, but like being trapped inside a shadow that had weight. I remember trying to blink, to move, to turn my head, but I couldn't. My eyes were open. I could see the ceiling fan above me. I could hear the faint ticking of the wall clock, but I couldn't move my arms. I couldn't lift my head. My body was completely frozen. Panic rose in my chest like fire. I tried to scream, but no sound came. I could feel my heart pounding, feel the sweat forming on my forehead. I was awake, but I was still dreaming. I knew what this was. Sleep paralysis. I had read about it before. People saw dark figures, heard things, but this was worse, much worse, because I wasn't alone. There was something in the room with me. I couldn't see it at first, but I could feel it, a weight pressing on my chest, cold air brushing my face. It felt like someone was standing right over me, bending down, breathing near my ear. My entire body screamed to move, to run, but I remained trapped, helpless, under the invisible weight. Then I heard it, whispers, not words, just a voice, soft and raspy like dry leaves rubbing together. It circled around my bed. I could hear it near my feet, then beside my head, then right by my lips, and that's when I saw the hand, pale, long fingers reaching from the side of my bed, wrapping around my arm slowly. Not grabbing, just resting, possessive, heavy, like it was claiming me. I wanted to cry, to scream, to kick, but nothing worked. The hand began to press harder, and then I felt a second hand pressing on my chest, and then another gripping my ankle. I realized in that moment there were many hands. I still couldn't see their bodies, but I felt them cold, rough hands pressing down on me as if they were crawling out from under my bed, from the walls, from inside the mattress itself. And then something whispered right in my ear, "Don't wake up." Yet tears filled my eyes, my vision blurred. I begged in my head, "Please, please let me go, let me move, let me wake up." And then I saw it, a face leaning over me. It had no eyes, just black sockets. And its mouth stretched too wide, like it was smiling far more than a human should. Its skin was pale like mold and cracked around the lips. It didn't speak, it just leaned closer inches from my face, and it opened its mouth, and something came out, a hand, another hand crawling from its throat. Reaching for me, I screamed in my mind, and then suddenly moved my fingers, twitched my legs, kicked. I gasped. Jerking upright in bed, the room was quiet again, fan spinning, phone beside me. The light from the hallway glowing under the door. I was free, but I was soaked in sweat. I checked the clock, 2:47 a.m., only 47 minutes had passed. I didn't sleep the rest of the night, but in the morning I noticed something, a handprint on my left wrist, read, "Too big to be mine." And when I lifted the bedsheet, dusty fingerprints lined the edge of my mattress. I threw the sheet off the bed, pulled everything apart. Nothing was there, but I swear I still felt cold weight around my ankles, like something had just let go that night. I left the lights on. I didn't sleep. But around 300 a.m., my phone screen lit up. No call, no message, just the alarm clock app opening by itself, and a message typed into the notes app I never touched: "Next time, don't fight it." It started as just another dream, one of those hazy, quiet ones, where you aren't sure where you are, or why you're there. I was in a hallway, endless pale blue walls, no doors, no windows, and a low humming sound like old electricity my footsteps made. No noise. I wasn't scared at first, just confused, until I saw myself standing at the other end, not a mirror me, same clothes, same face, but not a reflection. It was me standing still, smiling faintly, as if waiting for me to notice. I called out, "Hello." He smiled wider, slowly raised a finger to his lips like a secret, then calmly he whispered, "Don't wake up." I jolted out of the dream with my heart pounding. The room was dark, too quiet. I reached for my phone, 309 a.m. Nothing unusual. I thought maybe my brain was just messing with me, some subconscious version of me showing up in my dreams. It's weird but not terrifying. But the next night, it happened again. Same hallway, same hum, same dream, and the same version of me standing farther down waiting. Like before, but this time when I spoke, he answered, "You're safer here." I woke up again, this time with a sharp pain behind my eyes. My nose was bleeding slightly, not a nosebleed, just a drop, and a strange pressure in my skull like something had followed me out. Over the next few days, the dream continued every night, the same endless hallway, the same other me, but with every new dream he was closer. His eyes darker, his voice louder. "Don't wake up, not yet. There's nothing out there for you. Stay with me. This is where you belong." And when I woke up, it got worse. I started forgetting small things, my passwords, my friend's name, the name of my old school things I should have known without thinking. And sometimes for a moment or two, I do look in the mirror and not recognize the face staring back. One night I stayed awake as long as I could. Coffee, energy drinks, cold showers, but around 400 a.m., I blacked out sitting upright on my couch. This time the dream didn't start in the hallway, it started in my bedroom. I was lying in bed, watching myself sleep. The other me sat at the edge of the bed, humming softly, stroking my hair. When I moved, he turned around, same face, but the eyes were completely black. No whites, no pupils, just a smile now wide and unbroken. He leaned down and whispered, "You can't keep leaving me," and he gripped my hand so hard. I felt the pain burn into my fingers when I woke up. My wrist was bruised for perfect marks. As if someone had held it all night, I stayed home from work, couldn't focus. I kept checking mirrors, reflections, camera apps, anything to see if I still looked like myself. I didn't. There was something off. My smile didn't reach my eyes. My voice echoed slightly in my ears. I started walking like him, slower. Controlled. I didn't even realize it at first. It was like he wasn't just visiting my dreams anymore. He was teaching me how to become him. I tried therapy. Tried meditation, nothing worked. I begged for sleeping pills, anything to give me a full, empty night. But even with the pills, the dream came, and this time I didn't find him, he found me. The dream started in total darkness, no floor, no ceiling, just blackness. I heard footsteps approaching from behind me. When I turned, he was there, standing inches from me. No more smile. He looked tired, angry, hollow, and he said, "I'm tired of waiting." Then he touched my chest, and I felt cold rush through me like my heart had stopped. I screamed in my sleep. My neighbor knocked on my door the next morning, said she heard me crying all night, but I don't remember any of it. What I do remember is waking up to find my reflection already staring at me. Not following my movement, already watching, already smiling. Now, I don't know when I'm awake and when I'm dreaming. Sometimes I blink and am back in the hallway again. Other times am looking through his eyes, walking around my apartment like a guest. I'm forgetting things faster now. My memories feel like someone else's. My voice sounds wrong. My handwriting has changed. I think Hayes winning. I think I left the door open too long, and now Hayes moving in last night. I didn't dream. But when I woke up, my phone had a video. A recording of me standing in the middle of the living room at 3:12 a.m. whispering, "Don't wake up, Hayes." Not ready. I don't remember recording it, but my voice sounded clear, steady, confident, like I wasn't afraid anymore, like I wanted to stay asleep. And now I don't know who I am, or who I used to be, only that someone, something is whispering again tonight. She just sleep ill, take it from here. It began on a Thursday night. In early spring, the air was warm, almost too quiet, and I had just moved into my new apartment downtown. It wasn't much, one bedroom, creaky floorboards, and a window that faced a brick wall. I was exhausted from unpacking, so I didn't bother with dinner. I just collapsed on my mattress and let sleep take me. That night, I saw him for the first time. The dream started in a field of tall, dry grass. The sky above was a dull orange, like the sun was setting or rising. I couldn't tell which. The wind made no sound. I walked forward, confused, until I saw him standing alone in the middle of the field. A man in an old black coat. He stood perfectly still, facing me, hands at his sides, but what I remember most were his eyes. They glowed a strange cold blue, brighter than anything around them. Not natural, not normal. And even though he didn't move, I felt like he was looking directly into my thoughts. He didn't speak, didn't blink. And after a few seconds, I woke up with my heart pounding. I told myself it was just a weird dream, too much stress, a new place, maybe bad sleep posture. I even laughed it off, but he came back the next night. Same field, same orange sky, same windless silence. He stood a little closer. This time I didn't move, neither did he, but I could feel something pulling at me, like gravity, but not physical, more like an emotional weight. A silent whisper that I couldn't understand. Every night the dream returned, and each time he was closer. By the fifth night, He was only 10 feet away, his eyes still glowed that unnatural blue, and then for the first time he spoke. "You remember me?" I woke up gasping for air. Those words echoed in my head all day. What did he mean? I didn't know this man, I was sure of it. And yet a strange familiarity clawed at my mind, like a forgotten name on the tip of my tongue, like I had known him once in some other life. I started researching lucid dreaming, shared dream phenomena, urban legends about dream figures. There were mentions of a tall man with glowing eyes in various cultures, under different names, a watcher, a guide, sometimes a warning. But nothing exactly like what I was experiencing. The dreams kept coming night after night, and each time the man came closer. One night I tried speaking to him first. "Who are you?" I asked. He tilted his head. His voice was soft, calm. But it filled the air around me like thunder. My ears rang when I woke up after that. Things changed. I began to see flashes of him. While I was awake, out of the corner of my eye, reflected in windows, standing across the street, just beyond the crowds. Always watching, always those cold blue eyes. I stopped sleeping, coffee, energy drinks, anything to stay awake, but after 3 days, my body gave out. When I fell asleep again, the dream was different. It was no longer a field. It was my apartment. I was lying in my bed, but I couldn't move. Sleep paralysis, and he stood at the foot of my bed. "You invited me," he said. I wanted to scream, to run, but I couldn't even blink. He leaned down slowly, his eyes inches from mine. "This is where you belong." When I woke up, my door was open. I was sure I had locked it, positive. I started keeping a journal, writing down every detail of the dreams. The more I wrote, the more I remembered, not just from recent nights, but from before childhood dreams, forgotten nightmares. And in all of them, he was there, always in the background, watching, silent, patient. I confronted my parents, asked if I ever had imaginary friends or strange dreams. As a kid, my mother went pale. She pulled out an old drawing I had made when I was 6. A tall man, blue eyes, standing under a red sky. "You called him the window man," she said. "Said he watched you sleep." My blood ran cold. The next night, the dream felt different, more vivid, real. I wasn't just seeing him, I was becoming him. I looked down at my hands in the dream, and they weren't mine, pale, long fingers. I turned toward the mirror in the hallway, and those glowing blue eyes stared back at me. I screamed myself awake, but I woke up feeling nothing, not fear, not pain, just cold. Now when I walk past mirrors, I sometimes catch a glimpse of those eyes again, but not always in my reflection. Sometimes they're behind me, watching, waiting, and every night when I close my eyes, I hear his voice, just before the dream pulls me under. Let me in, and am starting to wonder if I already did. I never used to remember my dreams. They would come and go, like fog slipping through my memory before I could catch hold of anything real. A shape here, a voice there, and never more than fragments, but that changed 3 months ago. It began with something small. I dreamed I was running barefoot through a field of dry grass. The wind was cold, and the ground was hard. When I woke up, my feet hurt, not like a cramp or ache. They felt bruised, like I had actually run on sharp ground. I laughed it off, just a weird coincidence, I told myself, but a strange part of me knew something was different the second time. It wasn't so funny. In the dream, I touched a hot iron gate. I didn't even realize I was dreaming at first. It felt real. The burn was sudden and sharp, and I pulled my hand away, screaming. I woke up gasping, my heart racing. When I turned on the light, I froze. There was a faint red line on my palm, just where I'd touched the gate. In the dream, I stared at it for an hour. I didn't tell anyone how. Do you explain that? After that, it kept happening every night. My dreams got more vivid. I could feel the textures of walls, the coolness of water, the weight of my body as I moved. And worse, if I was hurt in the dream, I woke up with pain scratches. Bruises, once a nosebleed. There was no physical cause my doctor could find. Stress, he said, sleepwalking, he offered, but I knew better. I wasn't moving in my sleep. Something else was happening. Then the dreams turned dark. One night I dreamed I was walking through a long hallway. It was dimly lit, lined with doors. Every door was closed, and I knew some of it I shouldn't open them. But something pulled me forward, curiosity, or maybe something more, a presence halfway down the hall. I felt something cold brush against my arm. When I looked, there was nothing there. I reached the final door, and before I could stop myself, I opened it. Inside was a room with no windows, just a single mirror on the far wall. I walked toward it slowly. The reflection looked like me, but it wasn't. The eyes were wrong, too wide, too black. My reflection smiled, even though I didn't then. It whispered something I couldn't hear, and it stepped out of the mirror. I woke up screaming, drenched in sweat. My reflection in the bathroom mirror looked normal, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed me back. I stopped dreaming for a few nights after that. Not because I didn't sleep, but because when I closed my eyes, it was just black silence, no feeling, nothing. And then the dreams came back worse. In one, I was trapped in a burning building. I could feel the heat, the smoke in my lungs. I struggled to breathe, and woke up coughing violently, gasping for air. My sheets smelled like smoke. Another time I was buried alive. I could feel the weight of the dirt above me, pressing down on my chest, filling my mouth. I woke up choking, dirt in my fingernails. I tried everything. Sleep aids, staying up for days, therapy, meditation, but every time I slept, the dreams pulled me deeper, and I always felt everything. I began to lose time. Days blended together. I couldn't remember whether something had happened in the dream or in real life. Once I was sure, I had broken my leg while falling downstairs. In a dream I limped for 2 days, though there was no injury the doctors could find. I started writing the dreams down in a notebook, but eventually the dreams started writing themselves. I'd wake up to find entire pages filled with sentences I didn't remember writing. Sentences like, "Hey's waiting, the pain will feel more real tomorrow, soon you won't wake up at all." One night, the dream didn't start like the others. I wasn't in a strange place. I was in my own room, lying in bed. Everything looked normal. Walls, the clock, the sound of the fan, until I noticed someone sitting at the edge of the bed. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. I just lay there, watching as the figure leaned closer. He had no face, just smooth, pale skin. Where eyes and a mouth should be, he reached out and touched my chest. I felt everything, pain, heat, pressure, like he was pulling something out of me. I woke up with bruises on my ribs, and a thin line of blood dripping from my nose. Now I don't just feel my dreams, I carry them, they follow me. Into the day, I see things that shouldn't be there, doors that blink, lights that move, people with blurred faces who smile too long. And the worst part, I'm starting to like it. The pain, the fear, the way my dreams wrap around me like a second skin, because in those dreams, I feel alive. More alive than I do here, and each night, I get pulled deeper. The line between dreaming and living is almost gone. I know where this is going. Soon I'll fall asleep, and I want to come back. It started slowly, almost unnoticeably. At first it felt like my dreams were just getting weirder, more vivid, more detailed, more foreign. Places I had never seen, people I'd never met, conversations I didn't understand. But the strangest part was that they didn't feel like dreams, they felt like memories, someone else's memories. The first time I noticed, I woke up from a dream where I was standing in a hospital hallway. I could smell antiseptic. The walls were pale green, cracked in places. Nurses walked by, but none of them looked at me. I wasn't there as a patient or visitor. I was just present, watching. I remember a woman screaming in a delivery room. I remember blood, the sound of something falling, the feeling of dread so heavy I woke up gasping for breath. I had never been to that hospital, but I knew exactly how to get to the room in my dream. The next night, I dreamed of a house. An old farmhouse with peeling blue paint and a crooked windmill in the back. There were family photos. On the walls, people I didn't know, a man with a beard, a woman in a yellow dress, 2 children blurry-faced. I walked through the rooms as if I lived there. I knew where the keys were hidden, where the floor creaked, where the family dog used to sleep. Though there was no dog in sight, I woke up with dirt under my nails. It kept happening. More dreams, more places, more lives. One night, I was a boy hiding under a table as someone pounded on the front door. Another night, I was an old man dying in bed, surrounded by people I didn't recognize, crying, praying, holding my hand. And in each dream, I felt something change, like I was no longer the dreamer. Like I was being pulled in. I started seeing people from my dreams in real life, on the train, in the grocery store. A woman from the farmhouse dream stood in line at the post office. She looked older now. Her eyes locked with mine for just a second, and I swear she recognized me. She opened her mouth like she was about to say something, then she just left. I started keeping a journal, trying to separate what was mine and what wasn't, but the line kept blurring. I'd wake up with new memories, bits of knowledge I couldn't explain: how to fix a well pump, how to speak a few words of French, and I've never studied it. Worse, I began waking up in strange positions, not in my bed, but on the floor in the hallway. Once in my closet, curled up like I was hiding. I'd wake up, shaking my clothes, drenched in sweat. Sometimes not even my clothes, old shirts, pajamas. I'd never bought once a hospital gown. Then I started dreaming in the third person, watching people live their lives, suffer, die. And no matter how much I screamed, they couldn't hear me, because it wasn't my body, it wasn't my mind, it wasn't my dream. One night, I was standing over a bed, watching a woman sleep. She looked peaceful, familiar. I knew her name, Marla. I don't know how it just came to me. I felt drawn to her, protective and then guilty, because I wasn't supposed to be there. She opened her eyes and whispered, "You're not him." Then I woke up alone with her necklace in my hand. I went to the hospital, told them everything. They kept me for 72 hours. Said I was overworked, stress-induced hallucinations, gave me pills. They didn't help. The dreams grew stronger. Now they come even when I nap, and they're not always at night. Sometimes I'll blink in a meeting, and suddenly am watching a house burn, a child screaming, someone begging to be saved, and I can't move. I can only watch. My name is fading. I forget details about my own life, my birthday, my mother's face, where I grew up, but I remember their lives, all of them, every single one. And now something else has started happening. I hear voices before I sleep, whispers, conversations. They're not talking to me, they're talking through me, as if in just a doorway. Last night, I didn't sleep at all, but I still dreamed. I was wide awake, eyes open, staring at the ceiling, and suddenly I wasn't in my room anymore. I was at a funeral, my own. I saw my body. People cried, and behind them stood all the people I've been dreaming about, watching, smiling, as if welcoming me home. I think I'm losing myself, becoming them, or they're becoming me. I don't know where my mind ends and theirs begin anymore. All I know is my dreams aren't mine anymore, and soon I won't be either. For most of my life, sleep was peaceful. I'd close my eyes, drift off, and wake up the next day maybe with a dream or two, but nothing unusual. That changed 3 weeks ago, and I haven't truly slept since it started with a dream that didn't feel like mine. I was in a white room completely empty, no doors, no windows, the floor felt like glass and the ceiling pulsed softly like it was breathing. I stood there confused until I heard a voice not say, "We're ready to begin." I woke up sweating, my hands were clenched so tight my fingernails had dug into my palms. I brushed it off as a strange nightmare, everyone has them, but the next night the same room. Same silence, same voice, "Lie down, we're watching now." I didn't move in the dream, I couldn't, my body wouldn't respond, like I was paralyzed but not asleep. And the strange part was, I could feel things pressure movement. Like invisible hands were doing something to me. I couldn't scream, I couldn't blink, I could only feel. I woke up shaking every muscle. Tense, my pillow was damp, my neck had small red marks, like something had pressed against me during the night. After that, sleep stopped being safe. Each night, I was dragged back into the white room. It became clearer each time there were machines. Now, tall, shadowed figures standing behind them. They never spoke to me directly, only to each other, in a language I didn't understand. High-pitched, echoing too fast. Sometimes I felt things attached to me, wires, tubes, I don't know, but my limbs would twitch as if they were testing my reflexes, as if I wasn't a person anymore but something being examined. They never let me stay awake long. One night, I tried everything I could to resist caffeine, bright lights, music blasting in my headphones, but my eyes still closed. I still went back, and this time they spoke again. Haze, still aware, increased dosage. I woke up with the nosebleed. I'd never had one before. My bedsheets were wet with sweat, and something dark sticky. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it would explode. I didn't know what they meant by dosage, but I started feeling strange during the day, too dizzy, disconnected. I'd blink and lose minutes. I'd find myself in different rooms, forgetting why I walked there once. I stared at my own reflection for nearly 40 minutes, unable to look away. Something was happening to my brain, I could feel it. I installed cameras in my room. Just to make sure I wasn't sleepwalking, I recorded myself sleeping for 3 nights, the first 2 nights nothing. Just me tossing and turning. The third night, at 3:33 a.m., I sat up, my eyes opened. But they didn't look like mine, they didn't blink, they just stared forward straight into the lens. For 12 minutes, then I lay back down. I had no memory of this. I showed the video to a friend. He laughed nervously, said maybe I was just stressed, but I saw fear in his face. He stopped answering my texts. A few days later, that same night, the voice returned. This time, it was clearer. Sleep cycle is stable conscious resistance. Remains begin next phase, and that's when the pain started in the dream. My chest burned, my arms felt like they were being bent backward. I screamed and heard nothing. My mouth was open, but no sound came out. I woke up crying, my body sore, my mouth dry. I couldn't speak for hours. I went to a doctor. She ran tests, blood work, sleep studies. Everything came back normal. I told her what I was experiencing. She looked uncomfortable and asked, "Are you feeling watched?" I said yes. She nodded slowly, as if she understood something she wasn't allowed to say. Before I left, she handed me a sticky note. It had only 2 words written on it. Don't trust sleep now. I avoid it. I drink coffee constantly. I walk at night, but am so tired, my vision blurs. I see things out of the corner of my eastal figures, just like the ones from the white room. Sometimes I fall asleep standing up, and even then they find me. Last night, I didn't dream. I woke up strapped to my bed with red circles on my temples. I lived alone, and now something terrifying has changed. When I close my eyes during the dive-in for a second, I hear static, loud, sharp, like radio waves forcing their way into my skull, and voices more than one repeating my name over and over. Hayes, nearly ready. One more phase, do not let him wake again. I don't know who they are, I don't know why they chose me, but I know this: I'm no longer in control of my sleep. And soon, I may not be in control of anything. I didn't know her name at first, I only knew her face. The first time I saw her was in a nightmare. I was standing at the end of a long dark hallway. The walls were covered in peeling wallpaper, and there was a flickering light above at the other end of the hallway. Someone was crouched down crying. A woman, pale skin, long black hair. She didn't look up, she just cried into her hands. I remember the sound clearly. It wasn't loud, it was soft, like she was trying to hold it in. I wanted to go to her, to ask if she was okay, but something inside me said not to move. Something was wrong. Then she stopped crying. She looked up and she said, "You're not supposed to be here either." I woke up instantly, heart pounding. That line kept echoing in my head. "You're not supposed to be here either." I didn't understand what it meant. I hadn't seen her before. It felt like one of those strange dreams you forget by morning, but this one stuck, her face especially. I could still see it when I closed my eyes. The next night I had a different dream, but she was there again. This time we were both on a train. It was empty, dark outside. The train wasn't moving. She sat across from me, looking straight ahead. I tried to speak, but no sound came out. I waved. She slowly turned her head toward me and whispered, "This place, it finds people like us." Then she started crying again, and I woke up with my face wet, as if I had been crying too. I thought I was going crazy. How could a stranger show up in 2 dreams back to back and feel so real? I told my roommate. He joked that I needed sleep meds. I searched online for dream coincidences, Reddit threads, forums, nothing concrete, until I posted about it. Just one post. Anyone else dream of a woman crying in a hallway? A few days later, someone replied, "You saw her too." My blood went cold. I messaged the user privately. His name was Leo. He said he had seen the same woman for months, always in the same dream hallway, always crying, and always saying the same thing. "You're not supposed to be here either." He described her exactly: the hair, the voice, the way her eyes were always red, like she'd been crying for hours. It wasn't just my dream, it was ours. We started talking daily, comparing notes. Every time one of us had a dream with her in it, we wrote it down, and the weirdest part, our dreams began to sync. One night we both dreamed of a motel room number 103. The wallpaper was yellow stained, there was a blood stain on the carpet, a radio played static in the corner. She sat on the edge of the bed saying, "Hayes, getting closer." Leo said he saw the exact same thing, word for word. It got worse after that. The dreams turned darker, longer, more detailed. We weren't just watching anymore, we were being hunted. We started dreaming of something else. A figure always just out of view, tall, thin, and completely still. No face, just a black shape that followed us. Each night it got closer. The woman stopped talking, she just pointed behind us and cried. Leo told me he was having sleep paralysis. He would wake up and see the figure standing in the corner of his room. I laughed nervously until it happened to me one night. I opened my eyes and couldn't move. The figure was there at the foot of my bed watching. Not breathing, not blinking, just waiting. I started sleeping with the lights on, coffee during the day, cold showers. I tried everything, but I couldn't avoid the dreams. They always pulled me back. One night the woman finally spoke again. We were in a forest this time, branches twisting above like arms. She turned to me and said, "You're getting too close." He doesn't like when you share. I asked her who he was. She only whispered, the one who owns the dream. Leo and I made a plan we would meet in person. Compare everything, make sure we were real, that this was real. We lived in different cities, but we agreed on a date. A train station halfway between us. We were both scared but excited too, until the day arrived. Leo didn't show up. I waited 6 hours. Cold messaged nothing. Later that night, I got a reply from his account, but it wasn't him, just one message. Leo is sleeping now. He belongs to the dream. I don't know what that means. I don't know if it was him or something else, using his name, but I haven't heard from him since last night. The dream started in complete darkness. No rooms, no forests, just black. Then I saw her, the crying woman. But this time she wasn't crying. She looked up at me and smiled weakly. Now it's just you and I. Felt a cold hand on my shoulder. When I turned around, he was right behind me. No face, no voice, just presence like gravity. I woke up screaming, my shoulder still cold, my blankets on the floor, my phone screen cracked, my window open. I live on the 10th floor. I don't sleep much anymore, but I know I have to eventually, because Hayes still there. Waiting, and I think next time, I won't wake up because I shared the nightmare with a stranger, and now it's mine alone. At first, it was only a few seconds. The dream started with me standing in a hallway. Just that dim light, peeling wallpaper, a wooden floor that creaked under my feet. I'd stand there confused for a moment, then wake up. It felt like nothing, just a strange, forgettable dream. But the next night it lasted a little longer. Same hallway. This time I took a few steps forward. And when I woke up, I could still hear the sound of my footsteps echoing in my ears. Every night since then, the dream has continued exactly where it left off. Each time I go further, each time it lasts longer, each time it feels more real. At first I thought it was kind of cool, like a video game that saved your progress, but after a few nights I stopped feeling curious. Because the hallway never ended, it just stretched farther, the walls became darker. The lights started flickering, the air turned cold, and I began to feel watched. Not from behind, not from above, from inside the walls. I told a friend. He said it sounded like a lucid dream, and I should try to control it, but this doesn't feel like something I control. It feels like something is watching how I react. A week in, I reached a door. It was tall, rusted, made of metal that looked like it had been clawed at. From the inside, I didn't want to open it, but I knew somehow that I would have to. The next night the dream started with me standing right in front of the door. This time it was already open. A black staircase led downward into silence I didn't want to go down, but I couldn't stop myself. My legs moved on their own, step by step, deeper into the dark. There were no sounds except the faint beating of my heart, or maybe it wasn't mine. It echoed too loudly, like it came from all around me. I reached the bottom, a small room, stone walls, one light bulb swinging slowly above, and in the center, a chair, wooden, old, facing the wall. Someone was sitting in it. I don't know how I knew, but I did. They were waiting for me. I tried to speak, but my voice was gone. The person in the chair slowly turned their head. I couldn't see their face, but I felt something rise inside me, like I've never known. They whispered one word soon, then I woke up gasping, covered in sweat. The dream always picks up from where it ended. Now I am stuck in that room each night. The chair is closer, the figure never moves, but the distance between us gets smaller. One night they stood up, the next they took a step toward me. Last night they were just inches away, and their face was mine but wrong. Empty eyes, pale skin, my own smile but twisted, broken, stretched too wide. They whispered, "You'll stay next time." I tried to stay awake last night. I drank 5 energy drinks. I kept the lights on, but at some point I blinked, and I was back in that room, back facing myself, only now there was a second chair. And it was waiting for me. I screamed, I begged, I cried, but no sound came out. I was pushed down into the chair by something I couldn't see. I couldn't move. My reflection sat across from me, still smiling. Then he leaned forward and whispered, "We trade places tonight." I woke up, or I thought I did, but everything was wrong. My room looked the same, but my phone showed no signal. The clock kept blinking 300 a.m., even though the sun had started to rise, and the mirror showed him, not me. I smashed it, but the glass didn't break. It cracked in one place, then smiled back at me. Each night, the dream continues. Each night the hallway reappears. Each night the room grows colder, the air heavier, the whispers louder. I don't know how long I can keep waking up, because the dream isn't just long anymore. It's pulling me in, and soon I won't leave, because each night the dream gets longer and worse. I first saw her in a dream. I don't remember falling into one moment I was staring at the ceiling in my dark room. The next I was in a field of tall grass under a night sky that looked too close like it could fall and crush everything beneath it. The stars didn't twinkle, they watched, and there she stood, a girl maybe my age, maybe younger, in a pale dress that moved with the wind. I couldn't feel her hair was dark, long, messy, but her eyes, they were what stayed with me, wide, tired, and full of something ancient, something broken. She smiled gently and said, "I've been waiting to tell you something." Then everything went black. I woke up with her voice still echoing in my mind. I've been waiting. I didn't know who she was. I'd never seen her before. In my life, not in passing, not in a photo, but there was something familiar about her, a strange pull in my chest, like I should have known her. I tried brushing it off. Just a weird dream, I told myself, but the next night I saw her again, same place, same sky, same feeling this time. She was sitting in a rocking chair by a dried-up tree. The tree had no leaves. Its branches bent downward like arms, mourning something long gone. She looked up as I approached and said, "You're not supposed to be here yet." "But since you are," I asked her who she was. She tilted her head and whispered, "You already know. You just forgot." Then she stood up, touched my hand, and said, "He'll tell you tomorrow." I woke up with a jolt, my heart pounding. My room felt colder than usual. I checked my window, still shut, but the smell of grass lingered in the air, and something else burnt wood. Every night after that, the dream continued. Like a chapter book I hadn't written, but was forced to read. The setting began to change. We were no longer in the field, but in places I had long forgotten, an old classroom I hadn't seen since 3rd grade, a forest trail my parents used to take me on, my childhood bedroom before we moved, before everything fell apart. She was always there waiting, smiling sadly, and each time she gave me a little more pieces of a truth I didn't understand. One night we sat in a diner that looked exactly like the one from my hometown, the one that burned down when I was 10. I hadn't thought about that place in years, but every detail was correct. The sticky booth seats, the flickering neon sign, the radio always stuck on static. She sat across from me, hands folded, and said, "I wasn't supposed to die." I froze, my mouth opened, but nothing came out. She leaned forward, whispering, "I needed someone to remember, that's why I came to you." I asked her what happened. She just said, "They buried the wrong story." Then everything around me shattered like glass. I woke up on the floor beside my bed. There was dried blood under my nose, my ears rang. I didn't remember falling that day. I started digging old local archives, news clippings, fire incidents, deaths, and there it was, a diner fire. 2006, one death, a girl aged 13, cause undetermined, name, Elise Monroe. I didn't recognize it at first. but something inside me did. I had gone to that diner with my family the day before the fire. There had been a girl in the booth behind us. Quiet, drawing something. She had dropped her pencil. I picked it up. That was it. A moment. A moment that somehow connected us that night. I saw her again. We stood by a lake under a red sky. She looked different, tired, fading. Her hands were barely solid. She whispered, "Now, you know." I asked what I was supposed to do. She said, "Tell the truth, let them see, then he'll be free." Then she stepped backward into the water and vanished. I never dreamed of her again. But I can't forget her face, her voice, or the way the lake swallowed her like it was waiting. I went to the burned remains of the diner, just rubble and ash and silence now, but behind the wreckage I found something stuck in the dirt. A drawing, old, faded, a sketch of a boy handing a pencil to a girl. My heart stopped. It was me. She had been trying to tell someone for years. And I was the only one who remembered because of a moment, a tiny act of kindness, and now the secret lives inside me.